Okay, so this is the other half of 40 and 41. This is how you are going to factor using difference of squares. If you weren't here on Monday, you were supposed to write down your squares to know from 1 to 15, and that'll help you when you factor by difference of squares. All right, so things to know with factoring by difference of squares. You always take out a greatest common factor first. So on our flow chart, we still want to do that first, and then you're going to use this process. But how do you know when to use this process? You use this process if you have two terms. So use when you have two terms. Another thing you need to have is a minus in the middle. So you have to have subtraction between the terms. And then the last thing is you must be able to take the square root of each of the terms. So you have to be able to take the square root of each term. Okay, and then when you do this process, you're going to end up with a group of parentheses, two sets, or one set, sorry, and then you're going to have the square root of the first term is going to come in each set. So right here and right here is going to be the square root of ax squared. And then the second thing in each set of parentheses is going to be the square root of c. And one of them is going to be plus and one of them is going to be minus. All right, I'm going to give you a second to get that written down, or pause the video if you need to. And then we're going to practice a few problems. All right, so let's try this with number 1. So if I tell you to factor x squared minus 9, you're still going to do the greatest common factor if you can. Is there anything you can take out of x squared and 9? And you would say no. So then you have two terms, and all of these things are true, so you're going to take the square root of each term. So could you take square root of x squared? Yes, that's x. And the square root of 9 is 3. So that means you make two sets of parentheses, and remember that square root of x squared goes first, so it would be x and x, and the square root of 9 is 3. So you would have a 3 and a 3. And then you make one plus, and you make one minus. And then it's always a good idea when you factor to verify by foiling. If you foil, do you end up with x squared minus 9? And when you check it, you do. So that's how I know I have my answer. That would be our answer. Okay, number 2. 2x squared minus 98. Okay, to do this one, first you have to think of a greatest common factor. And 2 and 98 do have a greatest common factor, and it is 2. They're both even. So first I'm going to divide out a 2. 2 divided by x squared is x squared. And 98 divided by 2 is 49. So now I have that. Now, you look at what's left. So ignore the greatest common factor, look at what's left. You have two terms again. All these things are true up here, and you can take the square root of each piece. So I'm going to make my two sets of parentheses, and I have to keep going. So 2 just comes down from out in front. What's the square root of x squared? X and x. And what's the square root of 49? 7 and 7. So make one plus and make one minus. All right, so that one would be done. Okay, let's try number 3. How about if I have 4x squared minus 1? Okay, first you look for a greatest common factor, always. There is not one. You have two terms, so you see if you can do the square root of each of these. And if you aren't sure, the square root of 4x squared would be 2x. That is 2x squared is 4x squared. So that one does have a square root. So we're going to do two sets of parentheses. Square root of 4x squared gives us 2x and 2x. Square root of 1 is 1 and 1. Make one plus, make one minus. And then that's done. Okay, let's try a few more. Number 4. What if I have 25x squared minus 81y squared? Okay, I can do square roots of each of those, and there is no greatest common factor. So, square root of 25x squared is 5x. Square root of 81y squared is 9y and 9y. Make one minus and make one plus. Notice I put a minus and a plus and a plus and a minus. It does not matter the order. All right, number 5. How about x squared plus 64? Check if there's a greatest common factor first. No, there is not. So, are all of these things true? Do you have two terms? Yes. Do you have subtraction between the terms? No, you do not. So you cannot do difference of squares. So this one would be done. You can click prime if it says prime, or you say there's no common factors. Or not factorable, I guess. I think that's how Math Excel writes it. Okay, how about a couple more? Number 6. 3x squared minus 12. So start with greatest common factor. You can divide a 3 out. So divide each term by 3. So I would have x squared minus 4. Okay, look at what's left. Can you keep factoring the difference of squares with that? Yes, you can, because you have two terms, a minus, and you can take the square root of each. So 3 comes down. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2. So x minus 2, x plus 2. All right, last one, number 7. X to the 4th minus 1. X to the 4th minus 1. All right, so this one is, yes, you can take the square root of x to the 4th, and remember, that's going to be x squared. So this is going to be slightly different. X squared and x squared is going to go here. Because, remember, x squared times x squared is x to the 4th, which is what you want. So if you have x to the 4th, it's going to be x squared and x squared. Square root of 1 is 1 and 1, so you got a minus and you got a plus. Now, this one's slightly different. That one does not keep factoring because it's a plus. This one you can keep factoring because you can do the square root again of each of these terms. So only looking at this one, we are going to do another difference of squares. So make your two sets of parentheses. I'm going to make them in yellow because these are all come from the yellow one. This group right here just comes down. You can't do anything more with it. All right, back to the yellow one. Square root of x squared, x and x. Square root of 1, 1 and 1. Make one minus, make one plus. So your final answer on number 7 has 3 sets of parentheses for a final answer. All right, you're going to try Math Excel now for this topic.